Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to My Time, My Life with Trinette Faint. On this season of my podcast, I'll be talking to a variety of people, from creative entrepreneurs to business owners to writers to entertainers and others, about being bold and courageous, overcoming obstacles, and taking risks, all in the name of chasing dreams and building a career. I hope their stories will inspire you on your own journey. Thanks for listening. My guest today is Amira Lerario, a lifestyle and fitness model who began her career at the age of 55. Amira is also a creative writer, having recently completed her bachelor's degree that she started in the 1990s. She's a former running coach and personal fitness trainer and has published articles about her life as a mother of four, world marathon runner, and part-time employee. Amira spent over 10 years as a running coach, and she's trained many runners from beginners to intermediate to advanced. A competitive runner herself, she's run over 30 marathons around the world. In 2017, she completed all 6 Abbott World Marathon Majors, which included London, Boston, New York, Berlin, Chicago, and Tokyo. In 2021, Amira qualified for the Abbott World Marathon Age Group World Championships, which was held in London in 2022. And she qualified again for the World Championships in Chicago in 2023, and she will run the World Championships for a third time in Sydney, Australia in the fall of this year. Amira writes fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, and in 2023, she wrote her first short and feature-length screenplay. Born and raised in the northwest of England, Amira permanently moved to the U.S. in 1992 after meeting her husband the previous year while working at summer camp in Lenox, Mass. Hello, Amira. How are you?
Hello. Good, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join my
Thank you for having me.
podcast. It's so lovely to see you. Your resume is super impressive.
Thank you.
I mean, you must have like not a spare minute to your day.
Not much time. Yeah.
So when you were growing up in England, had you always envisioned a creative career for yourself?
I had not. Although when I think back, I was always very creative. Like I was always big into art.
Mm-hmm.
I taught myself how to knit. I don't know if kids still knit anymore. Well, my daughter does. She crochets.
Mm-hmm.
Like we would make like our own Christmas decorations. And so, I've always been very artsy.
Yeah.
But it was not anything that I ever connected like with a future self. In fact, most of my years growing up, I struggled to know what I wanted to do, as a career.
Interesting. Because you do photography too, right?
I love photography. It's definitely something I'd like to get back into doing. A lot of times I'll like take my phone with me when I'm running, and I like to take pictures when I'm running. I have an Instagram page where I just post all those pictures, and it's kind of like my little running diary.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. And why did you choose to come to the U.S. over London?
Well, I came to the U.S. to work on the summer camp, like you said, and met my husband. And because I'd already graduated college, and I'm a couple of years older than he is, and I'd already traveled quite a bit, around the world, we decided that it would be easier for me to come here.
Okay.
And
so clarify, is college in the UK the same as like high school in America?
No, I mean university. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my husband had more classes to take to graduate, so it was just easier for me to come here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And had you always been a runner, and how does that influence your creativity, if it does at all?
I have not always been a runner. I didn't start running until I was 43, after I had 4 children.
Wow.
Yeah.
What started that?
A friend who I met, because I actually learned how to swim properly too when I was 41. And at these swimming lessons, I met a friend, and she was into triathlons. So she said to me one day, do you want to come and run a 5K? And I said, what's that? And she said, it's 3 miles. I'm like, 3 miles? I can't run 3 miles. And she's like, yeah, you can. So I said, okay. Well, I had absolutely no running gear, of course,
Yeah.
And I ran this race, and I thought I was literally going to die because I was not a runner at all. And then there was a second in the series the month after, and I actually did a lot better. And I kind of placed in my age group. So I was kind of like, oh, this is cool. And then I decided to do a half marathon. Well, we both did a couple of months later. And when I finished the half marathoners had blue ribbons and the marathoners had orange ribbons. And I said, I'm coming back next year and getting myself an orange ribbon and qualifying for the Boston Marathon, which I did.
That is huge for someone who had never run before to make that your goal in a year's time. Wow. What did that training look like? How did you do that?
For the marathon?
Yeah.
Well, for the marathon, because I wanted to qualify for Boston, so this is the end of the summer, I thought, well, I need a marathon in the middle. So I chose one. Actually, it was really hilly because it was in Holyoke, Mass. And it happened to be the first 90-degree day of the year because it was like May 5th.
Oh my God.
So I did like a rookie marathon training plan and this marathon to see how I would feel, you know what I mean? And I think I ran like a 3:24 or something. And but I completed it. And then I thought, okay, I need to get better. Obviously, to qualify for Boston, I needed a 3:45. And so I joined a running group. And 5 months later, I ran the Hartford Marathon and qualified for Boston with the second marathon. Yeah, I ran 45 minutes faster and qualified for Boston. So that was back in 2011. And I've qualified every year since. Yeah.
I can't even imagine running a marathon. I've got a good friend in Chicago who runs marathons, and she started also in her mid-40s, I guess, running seriously. And she's like you. She, just does these things like it's not a big deal. And I'm like, who are you?
I think I am like kind of naturally athletic. Do you know what I mean? Because when I started running, it was just something. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was hard. It's always hard. It's hard to train. It actually gets easier in certain ways. But, I think I was just kind of, I hate to say it, but born to run. Do you know what I mean? Whereas some people, I think, have to work a little bit. Not that I don't work hard, because I do, because I'm a competitive runner too. Obviously qualifying for the World Age Group Championship. So, yeah.
It's impressive. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
Like I used to do, I was a track person a long time ago. When I was in high school, I just ran like the mile relay, 2-mile relays sometimes. And I was more of a high jumper though. And I did hurdles occasionally, but I could not imagine running any distance beyond 800,
it's all training. It's just all training. I mean, if you train, it's open to, and you learn how to, not get injured, obviously, because then that stunts your training. But the trouble I have right now is just that I'm so busy and now, with work, I just am gone a lot. So it's hard for me to get my runs in. So that's what I'm struggling with at the minute. So it's hard for me to
do them early in the mornings.
Yeah, like this morning I was out at, I met the fellas at 6:00 and I ran at 6:00 because I knew if I didn't, then I wouldn't get a chance to do it. And I also went to the gym this morning, which I normally don't do, because I knew that we were meeting today. So that's what you do. You know what I mean? You just have to change your life around day to day to fit in with what you have going on.
I am super impressed. Super impressed. So how does running influence your creativity? I think that was part of the question.
Running influences my creativity a lot because being a distance runner, of course, I spend a lot of time on the road. And for most of my training, I run by myself. I do my long runs sometimes with the guys. And so being out there on the road, it just gives me time to think about, life and things that I want to write about. And
Yeah. Yeah.
or sometimes things will just pop into my head as I'm running along. I'll see something and I'm like, oh, I could
Yeah.
write about that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
just being on the road for, and sometimes I'm out there for like 3 hours. Well, actually, that's how long the run was this past weekend. It was 3 hours because it was 22 miles. So.
Wow. But good for you. I'm so impressed by you
You
that you
gotta
can do
love
that.
it. You've got to love it. I mean, it's not. I tell people now, it's not what I do. It's a part of who I am.
Mm,
Do you know what I
mm.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to be. It just has to
At
be.
what stage do those endorphins kick in to keep you going?
Um, I don't know. Every day is different. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I can go out and feel great running 22 miles. Other days I can go out and a 5 mile can feel like a real slog. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it just depends too, like on other things you've got going on in your life, how well you've eaten the day before, or, there's just so many factors, whether there's snow on the ground or it's freezing or, where your head's at. Like this morning, I did not want to get up and run with the fellas, but I knew if I didn't get up that I just wouldn't run today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I lost 2 days of running because of work already. So
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to lose today as well.
Do your children run with you?
I have run with my children in races when they were little. Yes, they won't run anymore, but I'm hoping that they will come back to it because, two of my daughters are pretty good at running. I don't think my son will ever come back to it. He's not really the sporty type, but yeah, I've had some fun times running with my kids, and I always had them going to like running clubs and stuff, so yeah, I did bring them up in the running community.
Aw. Well, family affair.
And actually, my husband used to be the runner. I wasn't the runner. He was the runner. But he doesn't run anymore.
Ah. So what did he swap out his sneakers for? Does he do anything else?
Well, the couch. Yeah. Every spring, he like decides he's going to start up again. And by the middle of the summer, that's it.
Probably because he knows he can't catch you. So
yeah, and that's it. I mean, it just takes so much will, dedication, motivation, discipline. I guess is the word, discipline.
Yeah.
To make yourself keep doing it every day.
Right.
With whatever we do, right? Writing, whatever we do.
Yeah. Just like writing, there's so many times I can think of a billion other things to do. I'm like, let me just focus.
I have a feeling you're probably better at getting on with your writing than I am.
Well, you did make that comment once. What did I ask you on Instagram? You said, don't leave it to the last minute.
Yes. I'm a procrastinator. Do you know, it's the weirdest thing. I'm like the biggest procrastinator, but I always get it done. But I'm a huge procrastinator. I think I work good under pressure. I think that's what it is.
Well, I think we all suffer from that a bit, for sure. Yeah.
Maybe it's a writer's thing.
Maybe. I've just had the story that I've finished. I've been working on it for almost 5 years, and it's just been in my head so much in different ways, and it wasn't that difficult to get out on the page. Obviously the revisions are painful and the feedback and all that stuff you have to go through, but like the basic story, just getting that out, that was that's actually been quite fun, like writing that. And I'm already thinking about like my next premise. Don't have it quite nailed yet, but I have a character in mind that I'll build around. So
that's awesome. You probably like me, like you have it all in your head and then you put it down on paper. Do you know what I mean? I can't just start. I've got to have it all up here first. And then once I start writing, it just comes out because it's all up here already. There's nothing worse than sitting there wondering what you're going to write next,
Yeah. I love that we have that in common. Okay, so let's talk about writing. tell me, so you just finished your bachelor's degree in English and creative writing. Where did that passion come from? Was that from your childhood when you were just like naturally creative? Were
Yeah.
you
So
always writing stories and stuff?
I've always been a writer. As long as I can remember. I've always loved writing poems. Poems actually come to me quite easily. Probably the easiest of anything. So, I've always loved writing poems and stories. And, growing up, I read a lot because some of the times we didn't have a television. And when we did have a television, we weren't allowed to watch it very much. So I did read an awful lot. I used to love Agatha Christie. Well, first of all, when I was younger, I went through the Enid Blyton series. I don't know if you've ever heard of Enid Blyton. She's a British author that did things like that wrote books like the Famous Five and the Secret Seven, and Mallory Towers. So it's about this boarding school. So I love those. And then I love anything to do with like mystery, solving a mystery.
I'm big into the British crime dramas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I watch those. Like, I take that as my reading, watching all those shows.
Yeah.
I love, because I have BritBox and I have Acorn TV and I have Prime and I just watch them all.
Well, they are character studies. That is
for sure. Yeah. And there's some brilliant writing, on most of them. Yeah. So
sometimes I'll be watching them and I'm just like trying to envision the script, like what the script must look like.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, or like how they even develop the characters, giving them so much dimension and personality, it's
right.
pretty incredible. Yeah.
Sometimes just the storylines blow me away. I'm like, how did they come up with that story?
Right. Right.
It's
probably lots of alcohol.
Yeah. Alcohol and weed. Probably shouldn't have said that, but
but it's real.
That's not my formula, but being an athlete, but
mine either. So let's talk about your modeling. You started it in your mid-50s. Why did you start it then, and where did you get the confidence to do that?
Well, somehow I saw something online. I think I was on Facebook or something, and I'd seen this model, and she was like in her 50s, and I was like, wow, people model in their 50s, because everybody thinks that models are like teens and 20s, you know what I mean? And so then I kind of thought about doing it for quite a while, and took some pictures, sent them off, never heard anything. This was years ago. And then my agency that I'm with now, every year, they used to do it 3 times a year, but since COVID, they only do it once a year now. And it's called Top Model Search. And they bring agents from New York, and you walk the runway, and they see you walk the runway. And I'd taken my daughter, because my daughter's a model. And I saw like these older women walking the runway, and I wasn't dressed for it or anything. And right at the end, I thought, I'm gonna have a turn. I'm gonna do it. So I went and filled out a form, and I walked down the runway. I must have looked horrendous. I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing. And then we were both scouted that way. I didn't do anything with it for a couple of years because, I was doing the coaching and all that kind of stuff. But then when COVID hit, and I was getting tired of doing the coaching anyway before then. And then when COVID hit, and everybody's problems were just elevated, and I had my own problems and my 4 kids, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so then I decided to go back to school and contacted the modeling agency, and within like, I'm not kidding you, like within literally minutes, my contract was sitting on the computer.
Wow, that is incredible.
Waiting for me. Yeah, they're like, what took you so long? And I think I just needed to be in that place, where I was ready to make that transition.
Yeah. And what chutzpah, and just like the confidence and the will to do that, to enter this field that has just like so much rejection, but it's also like a better time to enter in your 50s because you know that's not the end of the world. And it's far less personal when when you reject it in your 40s and 50s than when you are as a teenager and in your 20s.
And plus two, older models are super, super popular right now because of, the baby boomers. The industry has realized that they're the people with all the money, not these teens. And so the marketing is just huge for, 40,
Yes,
50,
yes.
60-year-olds. So they need models to portray that.
A different world than,
Yes.
many years ago. I started around 16, I guess, in Chicago, and there was nobody really over 30 that I can remember that was like working. So it's great that you seized your moment, you seized your opportunity.
I think it was just timing. It was just a really good time because originally I'd started school at the same time. So my plan was always to, be a writer because that's what I've done, But I had no idea that the modeling and acting was just going to like explode the way that it did.
Yeah.
And so it kind of has flipped a little bit now. Do you know what I mean? That is now more of my focus.
And I love how you posted that you were on Law and Order recently.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing.
You
look like a tough cop in that photo.
You know what? I was thinking, I told my friend today, because it never really dawned on me at first. And then I looked at it and I thought, I guess I really should be proud of that because of all the thousands of actors that they could have chosen.
Yeah.
I was the one that was chosen.
Yeah.
And it was, it's pretty big. Yeah, it was pretty big.
It's huge. Let's say, go girl, get it. Tell me, were there any major challenges that you faced starting a modeling career at 55?
Not real. Well, not as a model per se, but as a mother, so being gone so much and, figuring out who was going to pick my kids. 3 of them are now driving, so it's not as hard. But at the time I only had 1 of them driving. And so it was like, who's picking this person up from there? And how are the, who's getting here when and dinner and, I just I haven't cleaned my house in weeks. And I have to tell myself that nobody's going to die if I don't clean do you know what I mean? Because I just don't have time to do it all. I'll get around to it eventually. But and I used to be very fastidious about that kind of stuff. But this career and is kind of and being in school has kind of made me have to
go.
Let
reprioritize something. And
not that I don't think about it. I mean, I've been thinking about changing the sheets for the past 2 weeks, and I almost did it today, but it's not happening now. So maybe tomorrow.
What were some of the risks that you've taken in building your all-around creative career?
The risks that I've taken, I think just because I was always I am extroverted, but I'm also very introverted. I was a person that never liked my picture taken. I never liked being out in the forefront. And, just the fact that even with my Instagram, you know what I mean? That I'm getting that out there and I'm getting myself out there because I realized really quickly in this business that it's all about being seen, that's my priority.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest risk was just getting myself out there, just saying to myself, Amira, and I don't know if you've seen those pictures I just posted on Instagram, but I've actually had those pictures for a while and never posted them because it took a certain kind of confidence.
After this conversation.
Yeah. To push those out there. And they've caused quite a stir. So
I really gotta look.
So the risks I've taken is more personal inside, risking not being hurt or or you know what I mean? And yeah, I do get rejection. I do an awful lot of auditions. I get a lot of rejections, but
Right.
I get a lot of amazing jobs too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, with top companies. So I do an audition and then I just move on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you have
you
to.
can't, yeah.
Because there's so much rejection for every job you get. There are countless others that you didn't get.
Yeah. And then a lot of times, like, because I do so many auditions, and then they'll, like, weeks later, they'll be like, oh, they want you for this job. And I'm like, what job was that? And then I got to go back and look up what it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's so many weeks later. So you just never know when that's, and the great thing about this job is that you never ever know what's going to be in your inbox every day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yep.
you never ever know. You open that inbox. In fact, today, you know, I had that good news today, you know, about the casting that I did yesterday. So,
oh, the one you're on hold for?
yeah. So you just never know what's going to be in your inbox every day. I mean, and that's why you've always got to be willing to be to go at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
You know what I
super
mean?
Flexible. Yep.
And you have to do that. So you can't be like, well, I can't do this because I've got that, or I mean, look how many times we've had to reschedule, you know?
I know.
Because that's the life, you know? And you got to go with it. You know, people said to me, and they still do, they think I'm crazy for going to New York, for spending 5 hours there and back to New York.
Oh, goodness, no. No.
Well,
you have to do that.
Where the work is. Yeah, you go where the work is. And if I hadn't have gone to New York in the first place, then I probably wouldn't be represented by an agency in New York, or,
right,
you know, be up for these jobs, because they know I'm willing to travel and to go there, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, that's where conversations happen. That's, you know,
the
cradle of so much stuff. So you got to do that. I do that occasionally. We'll go down for a day and take meetings and, you know, whatever I have to do. And then come back to Boston. It's just like, if you're not willing to do those sorts of things, then this is not the business for you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But even like models and actors that I know, they're like, you go to New York? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you're crazy. But am I? No, apparently not. You know what I mean?
I bet you're working a lot more than they are. So tell me, since you do a bit of everything, what is the most challenging for you? Running a marathon, modeling, acting, or writing?
Well, they all have their own challenges. I wouldn't say one was more challenging than the other. Because they all have like their like, obviously with a marathon, you know, you've got to do your training. With the modeling, you know, I've got to travel a lot. I've got to be in the right frame of mind, you know.
And you got to stay in shape.
I got to stay in shape. Yeah. With writing, you know, I just got to sit down and get on with it and think about it. So they're all challenging, but they're all rewarding if you get on and do it. That's the thing. I tell people, like, you can't think about it. You've just got to do it.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? If you sit and think about it, you're not going to do it. So don't, you know, people say, how do you do all the things you do? And it's because I just do it. I don't sit and think about it. Right. You just get on with it.
Right.
And you make it work. No matter how, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day and about this photographer, and they're like, well, you know, you have a car. And I'm like, well, hitch a ride, you know,
or rent a car.
Rent a car. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, you can't be making excuses. You just got to get on. And if you want to advance, you know, because I could make an excuse about not going out for a run this morning because it was really cold and I was really tired. But but the rewards of me going out means that, you know, I get to go run the Paris Marathon in April, which, you know, is amazing because I've wanted to do it for so long.
Yeah.
And that's my reward for working hard. So you look at the rewards, I guess, what you get out of it at the end.
Exactly. Yeah. And just so people
understand,
it while
like, you're doing it too.
Yep. So you're in Connecticut and you work in both like New England and New York, just so people understand when you're talking about like going to New York, so they understand geographically where you are. Yeah.
So I have an agent in New York. who I am exclusive with for the New York metropolitan area. And then I have an agent in Connecticut who I am exclusive with for Boston, Connecticut, and Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Cool. And tell us a bit about that Dunkin' Donuts commercial that you did last year.
Oh, wow. So that coincided with the Boston Marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So we shot it the week before.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit warm, but so I auditioned, like, oh, I don't know how many people, but yeah, I got the job, and I spent practically the entire day running up Heartbreak Hill because it was to coincide with
Mm-hmm.
the Boston Marathon. So we actually shot the commercial backwards. We started off at the end. I'm actually coming out of Dunkin' Donuts, but we started off with me coming out of Dunkin' Donuts,
Ah, yeah.
and then where it looks like I'm coming out of the house in the morning
Mm-hmm.
when it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the evening, so you can tell how long this day was. I think we shot it from like 10 o'clock in the morning till like 9:30 at night.
Wow.
And we did
That's
a
a
bit
big day
like
of running.
inside the house because they rented a house,
Mm-hmm.
but that did not make it to screen. So
Ah,
we had a lot of footage. In fact, the director made a director's cut of his own afterwards, because I think we had so much footage, and I think he struggled with deciding what to put in and what not to put in, and yeah. So it's funny because my brother-in-law, he watches a lot of sports, and he's like, oh, I told him about how I'd done this Dunkin' Donuts advert as a runner. He's like, yeah, I saw this Dunkin' Donuts commercial and this runner. And I'm like, yeah, Bob, that was me. This is my brother-in-law, he's like, oh, that was you? It's like, yeah, that was me.
That's a pretty sweet reward for all the
So
training and
it
stuff.
was super fun. Everybody I work with, that I've ever worked with, has been so nice. The whole, like the producers, the directors, the crews, people that, serve crafty.
Yeah. Those
It's
are the best
just,
people.
it's
Craft
just
services.
those are the best people. Although sometimes they can be cranky, the crafty people. But yeah, it's just everybody's just
Did
so
they
nice.
have you running after a donut the whole time? Is that what kept you going the whole time?
I actually did not have a donut. I did have a coffee. I did have a Dunkin' Donuts coffee at the beginning of the day, but I did not have a donut. I think I was in training for something. I wasn't running Boston. I actually wish that I had registered for Boston after doing the commercial, you know what I mean? But what was I training for? I can't even remember. I think I was training for London. Yeah. So,
Got it.
yeah, so that was fun. They're all fun in their own way.
So my last few questions for you. How has having a family influenced your creativity, if it has at all?
Well, and especially having 4 kids, because, they're all different.
Mm-hmm.
I love them all very dearly. And yeah, I mean, I just, they're very active in like theater. They've always been active in theater, well, especially my girls, in chorus. And so, so they've always been very creative. My daughter, she crochets, my other daughter loves to like do crafts, and so we are creative. Even my husband loves to draw, and play the guitar, and so we're a creative family. And so I just use like all those experiences, in like my writing. And see, that's what I do when I write. I do incorporate real life people. I make up the characters, but they're always based on real life people, because I just find it so much easier that way, and so much more interesting to use like these people that I know and put them in like different roles. Do you know what I mean?
Different like scenarios. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't call them by their names, but
So would your kids know that they are one of your characters if they read any of your work?
Maybe.
They'd be like, "Hey,
I'm not sure.
Mom, This looks familiar.
I actually did this nonfiction story about my 40th school reunion, which I did not attend. So it is totally fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it was based off my 25th school reunion. But I'm wondering if I should ever let my girlfriends read it. Because yes, they will know that it's them. It's not bad,
That's
but
all right.
maybe I should let them read it. They might have a little bit of a chuckle. And that's another thing too. I love
they
to
would be
incorporate
honored
humor.
that you inspired a story.
I like to incorporate humor into my writing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm from the north of England and we like to joke about a lot, and so yeah.
Well, I love the fact that you went back to school after you had your kids, after, was it being derailed for a number of years between starting university and finishing and
so when I came here to America in 92, I'd actually been to school I was in the catering industry. So, anywhere from from management to, I'd done the whole gamut.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but real high end catering,
Mm-hmm.
where you dressed up, you did the whole silver service bit and all that. So when I came here, it was kind of hard to make that transition. So I figured I needed to do something different. And it was hard to do the catering with, when you're married and you've got your split shifts and everything.
Yeah.
So I did do my SATs and
Mm-hmm.
I did quite well. And I could have gone for the last 2 years to UConn, but I'd never been to school here before.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little bit intimidating. So I said, okay, I'm just going to start from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And my credits wouldn't transfer anyway because they were too old.
That's annoying.
Yeah, they only went back as far as 97 or something. I can't remember, but yeah. So I did my 2 years and then I was about to transfer, and then I got into the car accident and ended up having back surgery. And so I was in my early 30s. And so when I recovered from that, I was like, wow, I better start having some children. And I was 4 weeks shy of 35 when I had my first.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with my daughter. I was 41 with my last child.
Mm-hmm.
But it had always bothered me that I'd never completed, this degree.
Yeah.
So I was like, I said to my friend, I said, I really like to complete that degree. And she's like, well, why don't you? And I was like, yeah, why don't I? I got to tell you though, registering back into school after 25 years, it was so hard. It was so much work. It was a lot of work. They don't make it easy, for people to re-enter the school. But and it's been a challenge. I would have to say that being in school for the past 2.5 years has been one of my biggest challenges ever. Just because of everything else I've got going on.
Yeah. But
when I first started, it wasn't. Pardon?
You've done it.
I've done it. Well, yeah, I've done it. I know I should throw a big party. We should have a big party after.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, in June we should have a party.
What we should do is when the film comes out that we met on, we should have a watch party, either here or there, and it could be like kind of a combination.
Yeah, but it's got to include good food and alcohol. Yeah, I feel like I just really need to celebrate.
I mean, it's a huge milestone, and we'll make sure we check what we're wearing too that day. For those who can't see us, we're actually in the exact same color.
Yeah, we're matching. So, it's like that sisterhood thing,
Mm-hmm. Amen. So tell us, Amira, what are you reading right now?
Well, the only thing I'm reading at the moment is my stuff for school.
Okay.
Because I have one of those professors who just keeps throwing out more stuff for us to read. On top of the school stuff that we have to read. I mean, it's very nice of him that he loves to explain everything in detail. But then I got to read all that as well, and it's a bit like overwhelming. I only ever had one other professor like that, and it's a lot of work reading all their stuff.
And this is
Because you want
your
to make
last
sure that
class
you
to
don't
the
miss.
very end.
Pardon?
You're in the midst of your very last class.
Oh yeah. Just a few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, you're almost there.
So what was the question? Oh yeah. So what am I reading? Yeah. So that's what I'm reading. Yeah.
Homework.
Yeah. Or the professor's notes.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And last question is, what piece of music inspires you?
Well, I love all kinds of music from, rock to jazz to classical to the music they play today. But I'm like so many other people, I'm stuck in the era that I grew up in. I still love listening to George Michael when I
Oh my
run,
God, right?
and, Whitney Houston when I'm in the car driving to New York, and,
Because it's
you know what
so
I mean?
good.
And so, yeah, those 80s, 90s music is,
The 90s was like the
what drives
bomb
me.
decade for
Yeah.
music. My God.
Yeah. They just don't make music like that anymore.
I know.
Although I'm sure every era says that, you know what I mean?
But this is true. They really
yeah,
don't.
but and then if I hear a good beat, then, I'll download it onto my MP3 player. Because obviously it's got to be a certain beat for me to run to, because,
Yeah.
I run at a certain pace, so it can't be like too slow or anything. So right now I'm like into a lot of the older stuff that George Michael did, a lot of stuff that people probably haven't heard. Because I discovered it just one day in the car with my Echo, my Alexa Echo or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, this is great songs, and most people probably haven't even heard them,
Last summer, fall, whatever it was, I can't remember now. I was in Bristol in the UK, and I was at this record store. And on my flight to London, I had watched a George Michael documentary. I guess it was called Freedom, I think. And he said that the album that Freedom is on, I guess it's called Freedom, I don't know, was his favorite album. So I was in this record store, and I asked the guy there, I said, do you have any George Michael? And he said, yeah, I think so. And he goes, because I couldn't find any like out, in the bins. So he goes in the back and he's like, I found one. And it was Listen Without Prejudice. That's the album. He's like, this is the one that I have. And I was like, oh my God. I was just watching a documentary and he said this is his favorite album. And I just was like over the moon. And it is such a great album. So
it is.
Yes.
It is.
Isn't it though?
And Older too. His album Older has some amazing songs on there.
Okay.
That, like I said, probably a lot of people haven't even heard of, and I'm in the gym and people are looking at me, and I'm rocking away, and they're probably like, what's she doing? But yeah, I mean, just, happy, well, sort of kind of happy. Well, a happy beat. Some of the words aren't always so happy, but yeah.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out too.
Yeah, it's called Older.
Okay. All right, Amira, thank you so much for taking time to come on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Yes, it's been a really
I'll have to interview you one of these days.
Yes, I will be ready.
I would be really interested in, listening to your story.
Well, okay.
Yeah, because you've got an interesting life yourself,
I guess, yeah, I suppose. A non-linear path, So, well, thank you all for listening to another episode of My Time, My Life. And until next time, take care. Bye.
Thank you.
My Time, My Life with Trinette Faint is a Floor 51 production.